Oh, there you are, YouTube. Do. Subscribe if you're interested, but also no pressure. Hey, I just watched a movie today called, let me make sure I get this right, I Saw the TV Glow. This movie was making me think of a lot of other things, but almost like in a indirect way. It not a, the things that it was making me think of didn't feel like in your face like references, like maybe one thing, two things, one thing for sure, but I don't know, the tone and vibe. It was an A24 movie, guess I should say that, A24 film. And I watched the trailer for it, and I was a little worried because this was a movie that I planned to watch with my wife and my friend Tracy. And I watched the trailer for it, and I was like, yeah, I don't know about this. Like, one, the cast was a lot younger than me, and I was like, am I gonna feel aged out of this? Like, am I just not gonna get it? And it kind of reminded me of a show that I watched called Cruel Summer. The preview did. And I was just like, I don't know, like it looks like a WB thing or something, right? Lifetime and Freeform. And another concern I had was that the movie was rated PG-13. So I was like, I don't know, this feels like it's going to be very soft and not interesting and not relatable and not unique or anything like that. And I was wrong because the trailer sort of sold me one thing, and the rating sold me one thing. But what we got in the movie, I'm not saying it should have been rated R. I mean, I think the rating is good for it, but it wasn't a generic teen horror psychological sci-fi thing. I don't even know what genre it is. It wasn't that. It was, in my opinion, more interesting than what the preview gave. And like I said, it was making me think of a lot of things. There are some obvious things, like there's this ice cream man who is a heavy tip of the hat to Mr. Tasty from Pete and Pete, if you've ever seen Pete and Pete. And then a cameo from Pete and Pete, but it's very like an artistic sort of cameo. It's not like done in a, like, they walk up and they're like, hello, look who it is. Like, if you're not looking for them, you wouldn't even notice them. And I didn't even notice it was them until my wife, she likes to read IMDb afterwards, and she was like, wait a second, look at the cast, Pete and Pete are in this. And I was like, who the heck are they? And then I like Googled like Danny Tamborelli in this movie, and then we saw the image. It was like, oh, it was those two guys. It was those two guys. That's who it was. So, it felt anonymous enough to where it wasn't like a, in your face cameo or like a giant wink that distracts you from the film or anything like that, which is, I think, very nice. So yeah, that one was probably the most obvious one, but it was also, my wife is an enormous X-Files fan, and one of the lead like actor in this, I can't remember everybody's name right now, but the main guy that we're following, excuse me, the way he's obsessed with this television show, just, well, and the other person that we're following also, the way that they are obsessed with this show, just like sort of made me think of my wife and the stories that she's told me about her growing up watching the X-Files and taping it from television, and just deep in thought about it all the time, to where it's almost more her reality than reality is, that sort of thing. So this movie was, making me think of my wife, and we're seeing VHS tapes, because the movie takes place kind of in the past and a little in the future too, if my math is right, like maybe 10 years into the future, if my math is right. And I kept looking over at her, and I'm like, this is what you talk about. What life was like for you as a kid with X-Files. Um, and then this was also making me think of the show Charmed. My sister and her best friend in like junior high and high school and such were very big into Charmed, and my sister was big into it, but her friend was even more into it. And that's kind of what this movie sort of showcases: somebody who goes all in on something and someone who goes deep into it but doesn't go fully all in, right? There's a television show that they're sort of obsessed with, and then one goes so far into the show that they're believing that they are sort of a part of the show, and needs these rituals to happen to like fully like immerse themselves or something like that. Is all really interesting. And this character, I forgot their name. If you've ever seen Bill and Ted 3, they're in that movie as Ted's daughter, I believe. Keanu's character, Ted, his daughter. And yeah, in this movie, they are very familiar with the show that the two leads are diving deep into. They have been into it for a while and then introduce it to the character that we're sort of following mostly, right? But yeah, it kind of reminded me of my sister and her friend, because my sister's friend, she was so into the show, and then my sister was into it also, but not all in. And that's kind of how this is. You have the one character from Bill and Ted who's all in, goes fully in, and then this other character who, has heavy interest in it but backs off just a little bit. There are some things that are pulling back a little bit to where they're not going all in. And that could have been our for my sister, could have been religious upbringing and a show about witches and stuff, Charmed, and maybe that's why my sister didn't go all in. There's that. So Charmed, it also made me think of Twin Peaks a little bit. There are some musical segments in this where we're watching. I think there are two of them, if I remember correctly, where we're watching a band, and I really like that. It didn't make me think of Twin Peaks. It made me think of Twin Peaks: The Revival. What did they call that? The Return or something? Where each episode ended with sort of a musical segment at the bar, right? The restaurant, no, the bar, and I thought, that just came to mind, and just the sort of the tone of it kind of feels like Twin Peaks: The Return, and all of that. So I don't know. I liked all the artistic qualities about this movie. All of that was nice. It made it feel unique. It made it feel interesting. It kept my attention. I was curious where things were going to go. Some may say it's slow. I will say it has measured pacing. I think that's a more proper term for slow movies that feel intentional in their pacing, that others might call slow. So I imagine some people might think that in some of the dialogue delivery, is kind of very, is monotone the right word I'm looking for? That might not be the right word I'm looking for, but something like that. But to me, it all worked and added a creative quality to the movie. But yeah, two individuals obsessed with a show. One is all in, the other one is nearly all in, and we see some of the things that happen because they don't go all in on the show. So anyway, I thought it was interesting, and I'm curious if you've seen the movie. What do you think of it? I would love to know. Let me know in the comments below, and perhaps we'll see you tomorrow for more Pure Hangout.